this is going to be fun, especially with Diane and Barney. I never thought that I would be able to play a sexy guy like this. He has one foot in the real world, or our world, and he has one foot in his own. I suppose he's more in the vampire world. He's domestic. I like Max because he doesn't want to just tear things apart. He wants to build this little structure in this cell. It's all going to be wonderful and very cozy and gemütlich. Maybe he's a German vampire. I don't know. I should have played it with a German accent. Family and, you know. So he was fun and odd to discover.
Dad, you shouldn't sneak up on people like that.
Brought you something to dress up your room with, Sam. How do you like that, huh?
Thanks, Grandpa.
Barnard Hughes was also really great because he was in a television series called The Kavanaughs, and his producers made it possible for us to work with him on the movie, and there was, you know, I had no replacement for him at all. He was just perfect and so much fun to work with. Then we put a lot of, you know, very talented people together to try to do this basically teenage vampire movie. Michael Chapman was a stroke of such incredible luck. I mean, this is the man who shot Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. And he had left cinematography to direct. And his first film was with Tom Cruise called All the Right Moves, and it was quite successful.
I've always loved horror movies, loved vampire movies and werewolf movies, and I never got to do a werewolf movie. I always wanted to, but that was my vampire movie, and I jumped at the chance because I've always loved I love really old-time cheesy horror movies. The best work a cameraman can do often comes from the impetus of the style of the director. To have the director also give this enormous energy of visual information and style is very useful, and Joel had great visual style. The Lost Boys, they are the hip kids in school that you always want to yearn to be accepted by but never are, you know, who are so mysterious and so much a thing apart from the rest of the school, and so hip and so cool that you yearn to be like them and never can be. And Joel somehow made that work through casting and through the way he directed them and through their costumes and through the stylishness of the motorcycles and the way they ride off into the darkness and then they appear and they're ultra cool. And that's Joel. I wish I could say that I'd done that, but I photographed them and hopefully photographed them well. But that whole style and that whole concept of them is strictly Joel.
I was just thrilled that we could really interest him in our movie because he was way out of our league. And to get someone of that kind of talent and that taste to shoot a teenage vampire movie was pretty extraordinary. And he did the most fantastic job because we didn't have a lot of time and a lot of money, and you're working with a lot of young kids, some of them who hadn't had a lot of experience. And at night, and you know, it has a lot of challenges to it, and he did a magnificent job. I still think the film is really, really ravishing. Bo Welsh was production designer, and he's quite brilliant, and he did a great job because we had very little money for the sets.
We shot most of it in Santa Cruz, and then, well, actually half in Santa Cruz and then half Warner Brothers, stage 15 and stage 12. Stage 12 was the cave. Stage 15 was identical. The Polaroids from the actual house out there in Santa Cruz. You know, leaves fall from the trees and stuff, and they land in the ground wherever they land. And this guy had leaf per leaf perfect, everything perfect. The locations were unbelievable. My wardrobe was crazy. I mean, the long jacket I wore, you know, the beige one with the gray stripe, black stripe, beige stripe. I mean, I had such crazy stuff to wear.
Corey Haim's outfits, that's all thanks to Susan Becker. Well, we decided that he would be, because he's a fish out of water and he doesn't like being in this rural setting with this crazy grandfather, that he would be this mall fashion victim. And so he's beyond fashion. He's you know, got this incredible wardrobe, but it's all thanks to Susan Becker, who did St. Elmo's with us also, and Flatliners, who's a wonderful costume designer. And I think she did a great job with the Lost Boys, too. I love their clothes, and she did a lot of invention with it.
Where you going, Star?
I don't know a single teenager that doesn't want to kind of pretend or at least try to look like a rock star for a moment. I've been very fortunate over the course of my career to do a lot of films, but I would have to say by far, if there was a single film that I felt I was associated with, it was Lost Boys. It's really only in hindsight when people still come up today and go, oh man, I like what you're doing now, but Lost Boys is my favorite, you know, and it really had an impact back then.
It was totally positive. I mean, it was unlike anything that I'd made before and fairly unlike anything I'd made since. And it was great to be in a vampire movie of such, it was a high-quality movie, a high-quality feature, and it was informed by this eccentric intelligence that you knew you were making something out of the ordinary.
When I look back at my career of what were the most painful movies to get through, Lost Boys was definitely the most painful. Yeah, it was probably very parallel with what I was going through in my life at the time, and I think that probably has a lot to do with it. I was obviously coming of age, becoming a young adult, very unsure with where I was going with my career as an actor, as a human being, as an individual, so many things up in the air. And I was also going through a lot of personal change. Just because I had a hard time getting through it doesn't mean that it wasn't worth it. Because I believe that you do pay a price for art.
There's like a lot of responsibility that comes with acting in general, but when you're a kid, you know, you kind of want to veer off and do your wild child thing, you know, which I did enough of. It just makes you kind of grow up a little faster, that's all.
The things that we get applauded for now about the film, it was really new territory, definitely for the studio, but also for us. And, you know, I wasn't sure whether it was going to float. And also, remember, all these kids were unknown. So this movie was not hanging on any superstars. And I think everyone was very nervous about it. I don't think I was, because you sort of have to, if you're gonna lead people up Mount Everest, you have to feel you can get them up there and down alive. So I really did believe in what we were doing. And I thought it was sexy and funny, and if people wanted to see this kind of movie, then we had something for them.
The phenomenal thing about Lost Boys is how it grew over time. It made it financially for the studio made an impact from day one, but it really grew into being a cult or a cultish, iconic kind of movie down the road, where you would start to see it in art house theaters at a midnight showing and things like that, and then was probably one of the top 5 most successful videos in Warner Brothers history. Certainly through the 90s it was. And so it was amazing to watch this film kind of go from generation to generation. I have a 26-year-old stepdaughter and a 16-year-old daughter, and both have found that film in their own time, and certainly not from me. You know, they found it from their friends and things like that. And I think that's phenomenal, that a film can actually get handed down from one generation to another, and do that. And that really is a testament to Joel.
I don't know what makes a cult movie or a piece that lasts. I don't think anybody knows. You can analyze it to death in your film classes, say he did this here and there. But I remember the story of Bogart talking to Ingrid Bergman at lunch at Warner Brothers and said, honey, you better get another job real fast because this is going to be a dog. And it was Casablanca. I mean, nobody knows why some films hit and why some films don't. The spin on it is hip. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It doesn't try to make itself some huge pronouncement. There are some vampire things that have been made since that I think will fade rather quickly, but this one won't.
I think that it's set a model that has been used again since The Lost Boys, and so it's hard to remember what vampire movies were like before The Lost Boys.
Just like with great music, great films are timeless. It just flows. It's just got the heart, it's got the comedy. I mean, the great thing about any movie to me is one that incorporates all the elements.
It's simple. It's a good film. It's entertaining. It's offbeat. It's still different. And it stands up as being a genre film that was so unique that it broke the genre.
I'm just so proud of it. I mean, the thing that I can't believe is that I'm sitting here talking about it because, as I said, it was my 4th film and I didn't know there was going to be a 5th. And now I've, just finished shooting my 19th. And, and as I said before, I mean, this really turned my career around. Doors flew open that had been closed. And it's an enormous privilege to make films, and that you think even if you've entertained people with one of your films, it's really fantastic because I love movies, and when I go to the movies and I feel satisfied, I'm so happy. And if this film didn't disappoint people when they went to see it or when they watch it on DVD or something, then I'm just thrilled because we did it to entertain them. It's not a deep personal Joel Schumacher film, and I don't know if anybody wants to see that anyway, but we all put as much of ourselves in it, but it is a teenage vampire movie, and if people get a kick out of it, then I'm really honored,